Let me tell you something. If you want to change your life, you've got to focus less on everybody else's lane and start running your own race. See, the truth is simple. When you're too busy looking left and right, you forget to look forward. And if you don't look forward, you're going to stumble. So today, let me give you 6 principles that will set you free from the trap of distraction and help you focus on the only person you have full control over. You know what most people do? They spend their lives watching instead of working. They spend their time watching other people's progress, watching other people's moves, watching other people's growth. And then they sit back and wonder why they're not moving forward. The reality is, if you want to change your life, if you want to step into a new level of success, you've got to stop looking at what everybody else is doing and start focusing on yourself. Because the truth is simple: when you're too busy looking left and right, you forget to look forward. And when you don't look forward, you will stumble over what's right in front of you. See, comparison is one of the most dangerous traps you can fall into. Every time you compare your journey to somebody else's, you take away the energy you could have invested in your own growth. You start saying things like, "They're so far ahead of me," or "I'll never get to that level." But you don't know their sacrifices. You don't know their story. You don't know the nights they cried themselves to sleep or the years they spent failing quietly before anyone ever noticed their success. And here you are looking at their highlight reel and using it as a measuring stick for your progress. That's not only unfair, it's unproductive, because the only person you need to measure yourself against is the version of you from yesterday. The second thing you need to understand is that your assignment is unique. Nobody else can do what you've been placed here to do the way you can do it. Yes, someone else may be in the same field. Yes, someone else may have similar goals, but your fingerprint is different. Your background is different. Your story is different. That means your impact will also be different. If you keep chasing someone else's assignment, you'll never step fully into your own. The moment you realize that what you carry is valuable, you stop wasting energy trying to imitate someone else's shine. You stop wasting time trying to live up to someone else's script, and you start writing your own. And let's talk about focus. Energy flows where focus goes. If your focus is on gossip, scrolling endlessly, comparing your life to what you see online, then don't be surprised when you have no energy left for your dreams. You are starving your own potential because your attention is scattered in 1,000 directions. But the moment you redirect that same energy into your vision, into building your skills, into improving your health, into strengthening your relationship, something shifts. Suddenly you find yourself multiplying results. You find yourself accomplishing in 1 year what most people don't accomplish in 5, because you made the decision to stop pouring into everyone else's business and start pouring into your own. Now, here's something you need to lock into your heart. People's opinions don't pay bills. The last time I checked, no opinion ever got cashed at the bank. Nobody has ever deposited applause into an account. You cannot spend someone else's approval. And yet, so many people live their lives paralyzed by the fear of what others will say. Let me tell you this: their approval cannot buy your freedom. Their criticism cannot bankrupt your destiny. The only thing that determines where you end up is the level of discipline, faith, and consistency you are willing to bring into your own journey. The moment you break free from needing the crowd's validation, you gain unstoppable momentum. Sometimes that means you have to embrace isolation. Growth requires it. People love the spotlight, but they don't realize that greatness is almost always developed in private before it's displayed in public. The seeds of success are watered in silence, away from the noise, away from the distractions. There are seasons when you've got to say no to the crowd, no to the noise, no to the invitations that pull you away from your purpose. You've got to learn how to unplug and get quiet so you can actually hear the voice of your own vision. It's in that quiet space that ideas are born, strategies are revealed, clarity comes. If you are always surrounded by noise, you will never know the sound of your own purpose calling you forward. And finally, understand this: you have to become a producer, not a spectator. Spectators watch, producers build. Spectators clap, producers create. Spectators criticize, producers innovate. If you want to be taken seriously, stop consuming more than you create. While everybody else is busy judging, scrolling, talking, you should be busy applying, building, producing. Because the world doesn't remember those who watched, it remembers those who contributed. It remembers those who used their gifts to make something happen. If you want to shift your life, step out of the stands and onto the field. Stop being the one who watches the game and start being the one who plays it with everything you've got. Most people waste their best years trying to manage everybody else's life while ignoring the one person they actually have the power to change. They spend their energy worrying about who likes them, who supports them, who doesn't, who's ahead, who's behind. And in the process, they miss the most important truth. The only person you are responsible for improving every single day is the person you see in the mirror. When you learn to put your attention on yourself, when you channel your effort into your own assignment, you step out of the cycle of distraction and into the path of destiny. The first trap people fall into is comparison. Comparison will rob you blind. It will steal your confidence. It will drain your energy. It will destroy your peace. You scroll through a feed and you see somebody living what looks like their best life. You see the vacations, the cars, the success, the applause. And without realizing it, you start comparing their highlight reel with your behind the scenes struggles. That's like comparing the fruit on a tree with the seed you just planted yesterday. You can't compare the two. The fruit takes time, pruning, storms, and sunlight, but because you're staring at somebody else's harvest, you're tempted to abandon your own garden. You can't afford to do that. The more you focus on them, the more you neglect you. Your journey is unique. You've been equipped with a set of gifts, experiences, and perspectives that nobody else on this planet can replicate. That means your assignment isn't a copy, it's an original. You might be in the same field as someone else, but you won't have the same fingerprint and you won't make the same impact. That should free you from the pressure to imitate. If you spend your life trying to be a duplicate, the world loses the value of your originality. When you recognize your uniqueness, you stop wasting time trying to measure up to other people's expectations. Instead, you start cultivating what only you can bring. That's where fulfillment begins. Focus is the currency of progress. Whatever you focus on expands. If your focus is scattered on drama, gossip, or distraction, then don't be surprised when your results are scattered too. If your focus is on everybody else's race, you'll always be behind in your own. But when you focus that same energy on your vision, on developing your skills, on building your foundation, something powerful happens. You stop running out of energy because your energy is invested, not wasted. You stop feeling left out because you realize you were never meant to be in their lane. The people who accomplish the most in life are not the people who dabble in 100 directions, but the ones who stay locked in on one mission until it produces results. You can't let opinions control your direction. Everybody has something to say. Some will cheer for you, some will doubt you, some will criticize you, and some won't even notice you. But the truth is, none of those opinions can pay a single bill. They can't build your business, they can't raise your family, they can't transform your life. That responsibility belongs to you. Too many people are living in chains because they're waiting for validation from people who don't even believe in themselves. If you keep waiting on the applause before you take action, you'll never get started. You don't need their permission to be great. You need your own decision to be consistent. Growth is uncomfortable, and sometimes it's lonely. You've got to be willing to step away from the crowd to hear the voice of your own vision. Some of your greatest breakthroughs won't come in a room full of people. They'll come in the silence of isolation. That's when you discover who you really are. That's when you stop echoing other people's ideas and start producing your own. People fear being alone because they confuse it with being abandoned. But isolation in the right season is not punishment, it's preparation. It's where the seeds of success are watered before anybody else can see the fruit. You were not created to sit in the stands as a spectator of life. You were created to be a producer. Spectators consume what others create, but producers change the world because they take action. While spectators are busy judging, talking, and criticizing, producers are busy building, learning, applying, and innovating. If you want to create impact, you've got to stop being entertained by everybody else's moves and start making your own. The more you produce, the more you grow. The more you grow, the more value you can give. And the more value you give, the more doors open that comparison, distraction, and opinion could never unlock for you. Most people don't realize how much of their life is being drained away by the weight of distractions. They wake up and the first thing they do is look at who's doing what, who said what, who went where, who bought what. And before they've even taken a single step toward their own goals, they've already given their attention, their energy, and their emotions to everyone else. You cannot build your life if all your bricks are being handed away to somebody else's house. The secret to real progress, the kind that changes your destiny, is learning to pull that energy back and place it where it belongs, on yourself. Comparison is the silent killer of dreams. Every time you measure yourself against somebody else, you plant a seed of doubt that eats away at your confidence. You start thinking you're behind when in reality, you're simply on your own timetable. You start believing you're not good enough when in reality, you're just not finished yet. Imagine a fruit tree that looks at a neighboring tree and thinks they already have fruit. I must be failing. But that tree doesn't know the soil, the sunlight, or the season the other tree is in. It doesn't realize its own fruit is still forming. That's exactly how people sabotage themselves. They abandon their process because they're too busy staring at someone else's results. You've got to remind yourself daily that your assignment is not supposed to look like theirs. You were not designed to walk their path. You were designed to walk yours. The world doesn't need another imitation. It needs your originality. Too many people are suffocating their potential because they're busy rehearsing someone else's script. And the tragedy is that the role they were supposed to play, the one only they could fulfill, is left empty. When you stop trying to fit into someone else's mold, you finally give yourself the freedom to grow into your own greatness. Focus is the difference between movement and progress. You can run in circles all day and still end up in the same place. But if you focus, if you move in a straight line toward a specific target, you create momentum. Most people are exhausted not because they're working too hard, but because their energy is divided in too many directions. They're trying to please everybody, keep up with everybody, outshine everybody, and in the process, they lose themselves. The moment you cut off those distractions and put blinders on your vision, something powerful happens. Your mind clears, your energy multiplies, and your results accelerate. Opinions are one of the biggest weights people carry. Everybody has an opinion, and most of those opinions come from people who aren't even living the life you want. You take advice from people who haven't done what you're trying to do and then wonder why you feel stuck. You let someone else's doubt infect your belief and then wonder why your confidence disappears. You have to understand that opinions don't create outcomes. Discipline does, faith does, consistency does. If you continue to allow the noise of other people's voices to drown out the sound of your own, you'll spend your whole life moving in circles that were never meant for you. Growth requires sacrifice. It requires separation. You cannot rise while staying connected to every single distraction around you. There will be times when you've got to pull back, shut down the noise, and isolate yourself for the sake of your own future. People may not understand it, and that's fine because the vision wasn't given to them, it was given to you. Some of the greatest breakthroughs you will ever have won't come in the presence of a crowd, but in the silence of solitude. That's where clarity comes. That's where ideas are born. That's where you find the strength to keep moving when nobody is watching. The shift happens when you stop being a spectator and start being a producer. A spectator spends their time talking about what others are doing. A producer spends their time creating something that moves the world forward. Spectators consume, but producers contribute. Spectators are impressed, but producers are impactful. If you want to live a life of significance, you have to stop standing on the sidelines clapping for everybody else and start stepping into the game yourself. You have to be willing to put in the work, to take the risks, to build even when nobody notices. Because while others are busy watching, you're busy creating, and creation is what leaves a legacy. Most people spend so much time trying to manage the perception of others that they lose sight of who they really are. They live for approval, for validation, for applause, and in the process, they neglect their own growth. They end up drained because they're working harder to look successful than they are to actually become successful. The truth is, you cannot live your life trying to please everyone else and expect to fulfill your purpose. The energy you give away to keep everybody else satisfied is the same energy you need to build the future you desire. The key is not to control what others think of you, but to master what you think of yourself. One of the biggest traps is comparing timelines. You see somebody seems to be 10 steps ahead, and immediately you start questioning your own pace. You look at their highlight reel and assume you're behind. But life doesn't operate on a single clock. Some people bloom early, others bloom later, and both can still produce fruit that matters. When you waste your focus on their progress, you miss the opportunity to see the lessons and breakthroughs that are available in your own season. Your path doesn't need to match theirs because your destination is not the same as theirs. It's important to realize that uniqueness is not just about talent, it's about assignment. You were given a vision that nobody else was entrusted with, and if you don't fulfill it, the world loses something it was supposed to receive. That means you can't afford to live distracted by what others are doing. You can't afford to water down your gift just to blend in with the crowd. When you focus on what makes you distinct, you unlock the power to contribute in ways imitation never could. Originality creates impact, and impact is what people remember long after the noise of comparison fades away. Focus is a discipline, not an accident. You will never drift into success. You will never stumble into purpose. You have to be intentional about where your mind, your time, and your energy go. If you keep pouring all three into watching others, then don't be surprised when you're left empty. But if you pour them into building, learning, and applying, then your results will start to compound. The challenge is that distractions are everywhere, and most of them look harmless. A little gossip here, a little scrolling there, a little obsession with someone else's path. But those little distractions add up, and before you know it, the day is gone, the week is gone, the year is gone, and you're no closer to your goal. The discipline of focus is choosing daily to put blinders on and keep your eyes fixed on where you're going. Opinions are a weight too heavy to carry. People will talk whether you succeed or fail. So why let their voices dictate your choices? They don't have to live with the consequences of your decisions, you do. They don't pay the price for your discipline, you do. They don't reap the rewards of your persistence, you do. Yet so many people allow themselves to be trapped by the opinions of others, trading progress for approval. You have to decide which one matters more because you cannot have both. The moment you realize that opinions don't deposit into your bank account and don't build your legacy, you free yourself from their grip. Growth demands separation. Sometimes that separation is from toxic people. Sometimes it's from comfortable routines. Sometimes it's just from noise. The world is loud, and the more voices you let in, the harder it is to hear your own. That's why some of the most powerful moments in life come in solitude, when distractions are cut off and clarity has room to rise. In those quiet spaces, you find direction, you find ideas, you find strength you didn't know you had. Separation is not punishment, it's preparation. It's in the hidden seasons where you build the character and the capacity to handle the seasons of visibility. The difference between people who live average lives and people who live extraordinary lives often comes down to this: spectatorship versus production. Spectators sit back and watch others make moves. Others build businesses. Others take risks. They talk about what they would do, criticize what others do, and admire what they see, but they never step onto the field themselves. Producers, on the other hand, are too busy creating to worry about comparison. They're too focused on building to be distracted by chatter. They're too committed to their mission to be pulled off course by opinions. Producers make the contributions that shift industries, transform families, and leave legacies. The world doesn't change because of people who sit in the stands. It changes because of people who step into the arena and put their gifts to work. Most people never reach their potential because they are too invested in everybody else's story and not enough in their own. They wake up every day with more curiosity about what others are doing than about what they should be doing. They measure their worth by likes, shares, and applause, and then they wonder why fulfillment feels so far away. The truth is, the more you chase the crowd, the further you drift from your calling. You cannot build your life while you are busy monitoring the lives of everyone else. The only person who deserves your full attention is the one staring back at you in the mirror. Comparison has a way of poisoning progress. The moment you start stacking your journey against someone else's, you begin to lose sight of your own growth. You might be making progress, but it feels small because you're measuring it with the wrong ruler. That's why so many people sabotage their own momentum. They look at somebody else's results and decide theirs don't matter. What they forget is that behind every result is a hidden story of struggle, failure, and sacrifice that can't be seen from the outside. You are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. But you will only see that truth when you stop comparing your beginning to someone else's middle. Your uniqueness is your power. Nobody else carries your exact combination of talents, scars, lessons, and vision. That means what you bring to the table cannot be duplicated. Too often people abandon their uniqueness to imitate the popular, the trendy, or the accepted. But imitation never creates impact. It only produces copies. And copies fade quickly because the world doesn't need another version of what it already has. The world needs what only you can provide. When you lean into your uniqueness, when you decide to sharpen your own gifts instead of chasing someone else's, you step into the lane that was created for you. And in that lane, there is no competition. Focus is what transforms effort into results. Most people are not failing because they lack ability. They are failing because their energy is too divided. They want to please everybody, show up everywhere, and be everything to everyone. And in the process, they drain themselves to emptiness. Success requires the discipline to concentrate your energy on what actually matters. It requires the courage to say no to distractions, no to detours, no to every invitation that doesn't align with your mission. When your focus is sharp, even small efforts produce significant results because nothing is wasted. You stop scattering your energy in 100 directions and start channeling it into the one direction that leads to your goal. Opinions are one of the heaviest chains people carry. They spend their lives adjusting who they are to fit what others expect. But here's the reality. No matter what you do, somebody will always have something to say. If you succeed, they'll say it was luck. If you fail, they'll say they saw it coming. If you stand out, they'll say you're doing too much. If you blend in, they'll say you're not doing enough. That means you cannot win living for opinions. The only victory comes from deciding that your vision matters more than their voices. You cannot let the fear of judgment silence the sound of your own calling. Growth requires moments of separation. You cannot build anything significant while you are constantly surrounded by noise. At some point, you will need to step back, to disconnect, to isolate yourself long enough to hear your own thoughts. That isolation isn't a punishment. It's a gift. It's in the quiet that creativity rises. It's in the silence that clarity appears. It's in solitude that you develop the strength and resilience that cannot be formed in the crowd. People fear being alone because they mistake it for being abandoned, but in truth, separation is the training ground for elevation. Life ultimately divides people into two categories: spectators and producers. Spectators sit in the stands, watching, commenting, critiquing, and applauding what others do. They consume what others create, but rarely create anything themselves. Producers, on the other hand, are on the field. They are building, testing, failing, learning, and growing. They're too busy creating to waste time comparing. They're too focused on their mission to be distracted by chatter. And because they choose to produce instead of spectate, they are the ones who change the game. The world remembers producers because they left something behind that mattered. Most people don't fail because they don't have potential. They fail because their attention is scattered everywhere except where it should be. They are experts at observing, experts at analyzing others, experts at pointing out what's wrong with the world, but amateurs at building themselves. They want the rewards of focus while living the reality of distraction. And distraction is expensive. It costs you time you can never get back, opportunities you never notice, and growth that never happens because you're too busy staring at someone else's path. The greatest shift you can make is to stop investing your energy outward on everybody else and start channeling it inward on your own development. The danger of comparison is that it blinds you to your own progress. You could be making real strides, but if your eyes are fixed on someone who is 5 years ahead, you'll convince yourself that you're behind. You could be building something solid, but if you're staring at someone else's spotlight, you'll think your work is insignificant. What you fail to realize is that their journey is not your journey. You don't know the sacrifices they made, the pain they endured, or the seasons they struggled in silence before the world saw results. You're comparing your backstage to their front stage, and that's never a fair measurement. Your responsibility is not to match their pace, but to maximize your own. You have to remember that your assignment is different. You weren't placed here to duplicate someone else's calling. You were placed here to carry out your own. The danger of imitating others is that you mute your own voice, and when your voice is muted, the impact you are supposed to make never gets heard. Originality is where your power is. It's where your influence is. It's what makes people stop and take notice because they can sense that you're not a copy, you're the real thing. The more you water down your gift trying to fit in, the less valuable it becomes. But the more you embrace your uniqueness, the more irreplaceable you become. Focus is the tool that multiplies results. When your energy is spread across too many distractions, it loses its power. But when your energy is concentrated in one direction, it becomes unstoppable. Think about light. Light scattered in every direction simply illuminates a room. But when focused into a laser, it can cut through steel. The same is true for your life. Scattered focus makes you busy but unproductive. Concentrated focus makes you unstoppable. That's why discipline is critical. Discipline is the ability to say no to everything that doesn't align with your mission so you can say yes to what actually matters. The opinions of others are one of the biggest obstacles to focus. People spend years trying to live up to expectations that were never theirs to carry. They bend, they shrink, they compromise, all in the hope of approval that often never comes. And even if it does, it's temporary. People will cheer one moment and criticize the next. If you build your life on their applause, you'll crumble under their rejection. You have to decide that your vision is worth more than their validation. Opinions won't build your future. Opinions won't put food on your table. Opinions won't create generational impact. That responsibility belongs to you and you alone. Growth requires the willingness to be set apart. There will be seasons when you need to pull back, when you need to disconnect from the noise so you can reconnect with your purpose. Solitude is not weakness, it's a strategy. It's in solitude that clarity comes. It's in solitude that creativity is birthed. It's in solitude that you strengthen the foundation needed to carry the weight of success. If you're always surrounded by noise, you'll never hear the sound of your own vision. That's why separation is necessary. It strips away the distractions so you can finally see the path that belongs to you. And the real dividing line in life is between those who spectate and those who produce. Spectators are always watching, always critiquing, always consuming. They know what everyone else is doing, but they have little to show for themselves. Producers are busy building, busy applying, busy creating. They're too focused on their mission to be distracted by gossip, too committed to their purpose to waste energy on comparison. Spectators clap for others, but producers create reasons for others to clap. Spectators admire impact, but producers make impact. The world doesn't remember who sat in the stands. It remembers who stepped onto the field and played the game with everything they had.